Well, here we are again. Welcome to another edition of the Lunch and Learn, brought to you by Information Technology Services and Human Resources and Communications and Marketing. And if your department feels like pitching in, we will take all the help we can get. Today with me, as always, is my co-host, Brian Krusniak, the Assistant Vice President of ITS, and we have a fun special guest with us today, my everyday coffee date, infrequent running partner, and also the Vice President for Finance and Administration and the Chief Financial Officer for ATSU, Rick Reeder. That is a long title.
It is long.
And Rick is here today to talk to us about some pretty cool things that I think many of you have already demonstrated some interest in regarding how buildings get updated, how we figure out which ones to update first. I think you're going to talk about when we buy new buildings, when we fix them, when we knock them down and build new ones on top of them, when we all just move into hovercrafts and ditch the land-based buildings. All of that's in here. So
now the hovercraft, that's my area.
Hovercrafts will go to Brian. So it's going to be a great episode. We're really excited and glad that you came today. So if you're watching right now, you already know this. But in case you want to send one of your friends and tell them, hey, you should get on here, they're going to talk about who gets the new offices first. There's a couple of ways you can do that. We're streaming live right now on Facebook at its.atsu.edu/FB, and you see that there on the lower part of the screen. When this production is finally finished, we'll clean it all up. They'll probably delete me from the frame, and then we'll put the finished product onto YouTube, and you see the address there. On the lower third of the screen right now as well, where you can go and see this video again later. And I believe, do we still do live stream? Yeah, so we're still on live.atsu.edu. I know it makes it a little harder to comment on videos because we do appreciate your questions throughout the segment. But if you get on live stream or if you get on Facebook, that seems to be the easiest because most people already have Facebook accounts. And we like to see questions from people who are watching this broadcast live, because then we get a chance to answer them if they're good questions. If they're not good questions, we just pretend like we didn't see them. No, we don't do that. I'm just kidding. We might do that. I won't say if we do that or not. All right, so we want to get into it, right? Brian, do you have anything to add before we start?
No, I think we're ready to go. I think plant, property, and equipment, that's an important thing that everyone's interested in. It's an important part of any campus, but certainly for a medical school, dental school, healthcare institution. Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Brian. Glad to be here today. Your description goes a little beyond the scope of my presentation.
No hovercraft.
No, and building buildings on top of buildings. I don't think that's in here. But
okay.
We'll find out.
We'll work on your presentation.
Sure. It'll make it more interesting. Well, before I get started, I'd like to say really a special thanks to our physical plant crew. We have a great staff, both here in Missouri and in Arizona, led here in Missouri by Bob Ehrlich. He's been here a number of years. Bob does a wonderful job. There's a lot of facilities, about 500,000 square feet to work with here in Missouri. And then Brent Perrin is our new Director of Facilities in Arizona. Brent's just been with us about a year. And so special thanks to him, but also to Andy Thin, who still has a part-time role in facilities, and he's been here 16 years and has just done a great job. So want to thank those gentlemen, but also thank the crews that work for them, because they do a lot of hard work, and it shows, and I tell them often that it really makes a difference to our employees, but also to all of our visitors and students. So first I want to say that. This presentation I'm going to do today I did for our Board of Trustees about a year ago. It was a comprehensive study done by Canon Design to look at the facilities in Missouri. And again, I said about 500,000 square feet of space, and they went through all of it with Bob and his crew. So most of the presentation has to do with Missouri facilities because it is the area we have the most deferred maintenance on. And deferred maintenance would be just considered maintenance over the years that's been deferred, things that in a house you might say would be gutters and roof and electrical and plumbing, those kind of things. So they did a great job walking and talking. We'll talk about all of those details and how we're hoping to stay on top of this over the next several years. So we'll get started. with our purpose, process, results, and recommendations. So the first thing was, I told you it was a collaborative study here in Missouri with Canon Design, and they were very familiar with our facilities because they designed some of our facilities.
Oh.
So as well as myself and Bob Ehrlich, there were a number of others involved from the Canon team and also from the Missouri facilities team. So in all of that, it was just a lot of effort. Started in the fall of 2015. So we wanted to assess the condition of the facilities on this campus, estimate costs for deferred maintenance for each of the buildings and in whole, and then create an ongoing database to continually assess progress and future cost. Because we wanted to have a good idea over the next 10 years what this would cost and be included in the budget if possible, so that we could get on top of it. And I do want to say that ATSU overall is in very good shape. The facilities are kept up very well. Of course we have deferred maintenance, every school does, but as a whole, as institutions that I've seen and also looked at studies, we are doing very well in this regard. So again, it was a collaborative process. It was in multi-stage form, and we went through several iterations. So Bob, his crew in Canon, they walked and they talked and they recorded lots and lots of detail in the study. And so through that, a lot of data was inputted into a new software system that actually is owned. It's proprietary software by Canon Design. And that software is to be kept up year after year after year. As we do different projects, it will change the total cost of what's remaining. And of course, sometimes things have to be added as well. So the idea is that we'd have a repository to keep all of this data. So that was one of the benefits in the process. Now, something that we can understand pretty quickly are colors. And so they have a color priority system, and I think it's very helpful. So the red color at the top is based upon a critical need. So they would have evaluated what are the critical needs on the campus, and that would fall into that category. And then 2 would be potentially critical, 3 is necessary but not yet critical, recommended in 4, and a priority but not necessarily any action because it's in good condition on the green side. And so every building was evaluated in that way. Not only the building but even the systems within the building were evaluated on this priority scale. So here it is again, and their calculation, this ratio, was what they based all of the values on as they looked at each of our building and its components. So when you look at this, it looks like a formula, it looks like a mathematical kind of formula you have to figure out. But really, if the deferred maintenance deficiency in a building, let's say, is $100,000, and the building value is $500,000, that'd be $100,000 is 20%. So you go down to the scale, and 20% is in the poor condition. So this is how, that was a very simplistic sort of example, but that's how you would figure this out. So every building and its component were looked at in that fashion. So in that, then we talked about which ones are in good condition, critical condition, fair condition. What they found is that overall, the buildings are in good condition, but there are some that need to be addressed. We also found that the 5-year needs for the Missouri campus were about $5 million in construction costs. And that says 5-year needs are estimated at 5, and then 10-year needs were estimated at another 5 for a total of about $10 million. So overall, that's $10 million, but that does not include some of the other factors that are included over that, and we'll talk about that as well. So in this, there's an additional 40 to 50% that will be added beside the construction costs in project costs. Those are things like architect fees and general contractor fees. So you can see that almost doubles the amount needed.
Wow.
So in Missouri, for instance, then the 5-year needs becomes about $7.5 million, and then the 10-year another $7.5, so about total of $15 million over 10 years. If you divided that by 10, it's about $1.5 million a year to put back into our facilities to put them up to that good condition. So then we have this sort of a comprehensive list of each of our buildings here in the Missouri campus. when it was built, the size, and you'll see the size if you look down at the totals, about 500,000 square feet. Values, the 5-year needs at 5 million and the 10-year needs with a 10 million total. And then you'll see this color. Remember we said green is good condition, red is critical. You only see one there that turns critical over time, and that's because of some components within that building, and we can also show you that. We also can look at this as a map, and you can see that in the 5-year period, there's a few that turn to poor condition, 1, 4, and 8, but you'll also see a number in green and some in yellow that indicate fair. So, and we'll talk more about those in detail, but this is sort of how you can see it in a picture form and which ones sort of we need to zero in on first.
You realize this is begging like the giant question. It's something we didn't mention at the beginning, and I almost forgot. But this morning, did you know we did a survey?
I saw the email.
Yeah, so we sent a survey out, and we were asking people, which building do you think needs the most work, the biggest? So I think what I think what we're going to find is which building most people work in that respond to our surveys. I think that's probably what the data is.
So it'll be a popularity contest.
That's right, yeah. How many people work in IPE? Because if it's number one, we'll know that they were the ones that answered the survey most often. I think this is a good spot for a break, I think. And so, Brian, there's a little informational session coming up here that's very close to your heart.
It is.
Right? And it's good because I used it this morning. ITS has a new ticketing system, and the ticketing system is so much better than the old one that I nearly ran down to your office and gave you a fist bump or a high five or something.
Oh, very nice.
But I didn't because I was busy. But so if you have ever submitted a help desk ticket before, have you ever done this?
I have not.
Yeah, so in the past when you submitted a help desk ticket, you'd get an email. It would say, I'm your technician, I'm going to fix your problem. And then there were other emails back and forth until the thing was done. That created some problems. It created a lot of email traffic. It created an issue if your technician needed to go on vacation one day and then somebody didn't know where your project was. Well, the new system is awesome. And first of all, it's right there on the portal. You open your ticket right there. You can always go back to it, and your little dashboard tells you where it is and what phase it's in. And we have some information on it that we wanted to share with you because it's really going to improve, I think, ITS's ability to deliver their services to the rest of the university. So let's go to this little segment right now.
The ITS department at ATSU is excited to announce that we are implementing a new ticketing system. It's called Ivanti. We know that change can sometimes be frustrating and a little scary, but it doesn't need to be. This is easy. We've created this video to help you transition to our new software. You'll find that Ivanti allows those at ATSU to stay in touch with the service desk, view important service notices, log, track, and update incidents as necessary. Ivanti allows you to log a ticket anytime, anywhere. But how does this affect me? The way you report an incident may be different from the way you've done it before. You'll create the ticket. No extra emails, no misdirected tickets, updated information, always. Don't worry, it's easy. You can do it, and we will show you how. Let's create a ticket. Let's say our monitor stopped working. First, we'll need to log in to Ivanti. On-campus window users can log in with the icon that will be on their desktop. Everyone else will log in through the portal. This would include Mac users, students, and off-campus employees. Are you on campus and can't get to your computer, or perhaps can't access your computer to report an incident? That's okay. Use the kiosk at the service desk. Once you've logged in, you'll see the Avante homepage. Let's take a quick tour. In the lower right, you'll see the Notices section, where maintenance and other important information will be located. In the middle of the page is an area called My Current Activity. All current ticket information will be located here. In the lower left, you'll find training and informational videos, and in the upper left corner is the menu area. From here, you can submit a ticket, find quick links to the ITS webpage, our YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. Click on Submit a Ticket and let's begin. This is the incident page. This is where you'll enter the information we'll need in order to assist you. Please note that all of the yellow fields are required information. The first thing you're going to do is choose a category from the drop-down menu. In our example, we have a monitor that doesn't work, so therefore you're going to choose Computer Hardware Issue. Second, you're going to choose a subcategory from its drop-down menu. We have chosen PC and Laptop Services. Third, enter your affiliation with ATSU. In this instance, we have chosen ASDO. Fourth, choose your location from the location drop-down arrow on the right. The fifth thing you're going to do is summarize the issue. Keep it short. For this demonstration, we have chosen to enter My monitor is not working. In this area, we'd like you to add the details. Tell us what happened and what you've tried. If you need other services, please tell us details such as dates, times, and location. Do you have alternate contact information? Please type it in here. Your ATSU contact information will automatically populate because you're already logged in. And finally, choose Save and Close. You're done. You'll then see that your incident was logged and the reference number displayed. In this case, it was ticket number 31. Once a ticket has been entered, the area called My Current Activity will populate and you'll receive an email. Check here for status updates.
All right, and we're back. And hopefully you can see just how easy it will be, and hopefully is now, to insert a ticket and add your request to the service desk so that we can help you do your jobs. That's really what our mission is. And thanks, Joe, for the nice introduction.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that you actually already went in there and took a look at it. That's great. We're not going to eliminate all of the email because there is still some value in people getting email back and forth. So we're really trying to get additional methods for communicating with people.
Yeah.
So the portal will be a place where you can go and see all of your historical tickets, as well as get the status on your most recent
Yeah, I
tickets.
think that's the part I liked about it the most is I could go to that dashboard and it feels like up to date.
Yep.
It feels like I can see it right then what everybody's been doing.
Yeah, there's a place where notifications can be submitted so that we can let everyone know all at once if we're experiencing some kind of known problems or bugs. Then people can just go to that portal and they'll see it
that's
right
cool.
there. So it'll be great.
Good idea.
Well, let's go into the poll that we teased a little bit before the break. And we narrowed the field down a little bit, so we only gave you, I think, 6 or 7 options of which buildings would need the most tender, loving care. And it looks to me like we have a tie.
Oh.
So believe it or not, maybe we have the same number of people who are working in the same buildings. So I'm looking at this top one here, and it looks like if we go 22.7 for the Howard building, and 22.7, so 10 responses each for the Howard building and TBR.
Okay.
Timken Burnett. So now we'll in the third place, close third, would be the East Wing building, and that's the one that I think most of us kind of think about most frequently, since there are areas of that haven't been used for a while. So kind of a selection of 3. So Rick, how close are we?
Well, actually, those buildings are all very close to the top 7. But the top building is the boiler house. So no one got the boiler house. And I'm not surprised. You see on the screen a picture of the boiler house. And you've probably never been in there. But it contains all of our switch gear. And according to Bob Ehrlich, the equipment in that building, most of it's almost 50 years old. And that can be a problem when that particular building and its contents feed the entire campus of power and everything else that goes with
Really?
power. Yes, so it's a pretty important building.
No kidding.
Pretty important stuff inside. And it's behind the scenes stuff, so I'm not surprised people didn't guess this particular building, but it is the most critical. So you can see on the chart the reds, and the reds mean if you don't do anything, this will become in critical condition. So we are going to actually plan to do some things. We're actually in some design phase right now for that switchgear and the building itself. And so it will get the first attention for that very reason.
And am I reading this correctly? So it looks like you've got breakdowns here of the different types of areas
right.
that maybe are most in need
In the building.
in the building. So architectural, then, it looks like it's in the most critical shape.
Yes.
Like it's going to fall down?
Well, it probably isn't going to fall down, but it probably needs some work. Let's just say that.
I probably shouldn't use
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
inflammatory language. Like
Yeah.
it might start leaning a little
Yeah.
or something.
That's probably not a technical term. That's right. Yeah. Electrical, though, you see, is and something that just happened, and probably most people don't even know, but it took a lot of work on the part of our physical plant crew here in Missouri. And that is now we have redundant power coming into the campus. So we have two sources of power. We only used to have, just a few weeks ago, one. And so Bob Ehrlich worked with the power, Ameren or Missouri? Ameren?
Ameren.
Yeah. And they put in power and another transformer. So we actually have redundant power now, which is a big deal for us in the hospital. But this will further enhance our capability.
Yeah, it looks like electrical and plumbing. There's a lot of
Yes,
needs in that building.
there are. And this is how each building was done. I just gave you one example, but this is how we did, or they did, every single building. So we have this information in detail on every building and all of its components. So
Nice.
anyway, let's go on. There's the poll. So this gets us to the recommendations. We just talked about one of those. So these were the at-risk locations, at least the most at risk. So most of these were identified: the East Building, the Boiler House, Howard, Timken Burnett, Memorial, and Wright. The one that we didn't probably see was the Thompson Campus Center, but we have been doing a lot of work over there right now, and if you've been over there, you know that. In the lower level, the facilities, you know, as far as the new aerobic room that's been put in there. The locker rooms are going to get an update, a facelift this summer, and so those are currently out for bid right now. So we're doing some of that. It won't always happen in exact order,
Right.
because it doesn't always happen that cleanly. For instance, Timken Burnett may be a project that takes us 3 to 5 years to do that entire building because it's a big project. So
Yeah.
the next slide, though, shows the actual order based upon all of those components. So the Boiler House was number 1, it's most critical. Then Timken Burnett was 2, Howard was 3, Thompson Campus Center was 4, although it will fall down further because we're doing more work there. Memorial Hall, East Building was 6. I think some people would have thought that to be 1. And then Wright Building was 7. So that's kind of how it all came out in the wash when we looked at all the different components of the building. So
Interesting.
now, the other thing we did as well, Andy Thin put this together and we charted it out. At the time we did this, we only owned 1 building out there. We leased the other 3.
In Arizona. you
Mhm,
mean?
in Arizona.
Yeah.
So 5850 is the building that's represented on these slides. So you can see we went down components that would need to be replaced over each year. And so this is the first 5 years of that. And then we did the next 5, so a total of 10 to try to match our 10-year study here. And then we wanted to look at this in total. I wanted to know what the entire cost would be over time. So that's what this looks like. So the Missouri campus, remember we talked about that $15 million? All right, then we put an inflationary factor to that, which we added another about $1.7 million in the 10 years. Then the Arizona campus, we added everything up and we said about 1.7 million in building 5850, and then the inflationary factor of 140,000. So a total of about 18.3 million over 10 years. So that's about 1.8 per year. And it's not linear. In other words, it's not always even 1.8, but that sort of gave us a really good idea. What would it take to keep our buildings what we consider in good condition?
Now, can I interrupt you for just a second? Because I know, and I didn't really mention this at the outset, but you've done this role at several different institutions in your
Yes.
career. And I think we did the get to know thing. You rode with me.
I did.
That was a while ago.
It was an
though.
unforgettable
Have
experience.
you blocked it out?
Yeah.
But so we talked about it some then, and if people watch the Get to Know segment, then they know that. But you've done this. This has been part of your responsibility at a lot of institutions.
Yes.
And so your eyes are a little bit different because for some of us that have worked just here for a long time, we don't know how do these compare with other places you've worked. When you look at it with your experience, how do you feel about the way the numbers came out? I know you said at the beginning we're in pretty good shape, but give us some context. How does that compare with other places you've been or with other things you've experienced before?
Well, ATSU is in very good shape overall. I know 1.8 seems like a lot of money to be spending every year on deferred maintenance. However, if you were to compare us with a number of other institutions, you would find we're in much better shape. There's another ratio, and I don't want to get too far into this, but
Sure.
there's a financial ratio called average age of plant. And you can compare that sort of thing as well. And when I did that last for ATSU, the average age of plant was 5 years. So that kind of, and the goal there is to be less than 15. So that gives you an idea that we're in pretty good shape overall, even though we have places that we need to invest dollars. But I think a number of institutions, and we do too to some degree, have a hard time finding the dollars to invest like this every single year. However, it does make a difference. And as I said, I think ATSU facilities have been very well maintained over the years. So that's credit to a number of administrations prior to this one as well.
It seems like we've also built in different areas at different times too. So we've kind of got new construction in Arizona for a while, then we kind of had some new construction in the Missouri campus with the dental program and the iPads building, and now we've got St. Louis is new construction. So it seems like every few years we're always building something new.
It does seem that way. I work in a building that I happen to see from your numbers was built in 1896. And it's actually in pretty good shape considering it's, 130 years old or something almost? 120 years old. I think one of the things that probably surprises me the most, actually on that slide you were just on,
Okay, I was going to show that the East building was
I'm in
number
the East
6.
building, yeah.
Number 6, okay.
So on this slide, maybe one of the things, and you can tell me, I think what you're going to say is, no, it's not surprising to me at all, but every time I go to Arizona, 5850 is a beautiful, really new feeling building. And so I look at that and I think, holy cow, 1.7, almost $8 million in regular maintenance just to keep that building up to spec over the next 10 years. That sounds like a number you would hear for a small new campus construction project, and those are the funds we just invest to keep our buildings maintained. Am I hearing that right?
You are, because as you look at these slides, you can see, a certain amount of investment every year. Again, it's not linear because there are different amounts for different years when you have to replace some larger kinds of things or do some other things that are planned.
Yeah.
So overall, yes.
Oh, I see. It's 1.8 total over 10 years.
It is.
I see.
It
I
is
got
in
it.
this case. It
Yep.
is in this case. So yeah, it doesn't sound that bad, but now we have recently purchased the 3 buildings we were leasing.
In Arizona?
In Arizona. So
cool.
those are buildings that now we will need to maintain. For the time being, though, we actually, when we financed it and we got a bond issue, we got enough to also do some things in those buildings to sort of bump up the maintenance, bump up our security and safety systems, our HVAC systems. And so Brent Perrin, our director there, is starting to work on all of those things in the planning. So we will also have some additional deferred maintenance for those buildings over time. But for now, we will get a jump start on that.
So Rick, do the models take into account kind of the differences between new buildings and older buildings? So I saw like LED lighting, and I know that kind of green architecture is something that we're trying to do to kind of limit the ongoing cost of buildings. So it seems to me like an older building may have kind of older HVAC. It may be more expensive to heat and cool and whatnot. Do the models take any of that into account?
Well, it wasn't an energy study, so in that way, no. What it really was looking at were the systems. However, I know that in these buildings, for instance, in Missouri, Bob Ehrlich looks at that when he does some remodeling or upgrades. He will look at that sort of thing to try to determine how can we save more dollars. And of course, new systems typically do save you dollars, but there's a break-even point on that as well. But so what this did was really looked at systems more than an energy cost of what would we need to do. Now, there's also another component this doesn't take into consideration, and that is aesthetic value. So if we have in this room a piece of carpet that's good condition and looks pretty good, but over time it might be outdated. But if the carpet's still good, then we consider that good condition. So you see, it doesn't necessarily take into aesthetic value what monies we could put in. For instance, granite versus good Formica, something like that. Yeah.
Interesting. We did have one question that I liked, and I think you had a slide that referred to all of them. It said, how old is the boiler plant? I think you had construction dates on most of those.
We did. We sure did. So we'll go, it's right here in this big list. Not that one, not that one. There we go.
Ah, there it is.
So it's not built, the boiler house was built in 1970.
Interesting.
So that's probably when the original, switchgear was put in.
I see. Cool. Oh, and there's the dates. Oh yeah, 1896. I knew I remembered seeing this somewhere. Very cool. Well, hey, how about we go to our second break? You're not allowed to leave yet.
Oh.
So you stay here. But we're going to go back to the ticketing system, and now we're going to show you what happens behind the scenes when you actually submit a ticket. This is very cool. Much in the same way we're getting to see all of the work that you guys put in just to figure out what buildings needs what and when and how much it's going to cost and how to put it in the budget. There's always a back end. And the back ends of these kind of things are always interesting because if for no other reason, it gives you a little more sympathy and maybe patience when you're waiting on someone to do something for you, when you get to see how it actually works. So here it comes behind the scenes in the new ITS ticketing system.
In the first video, we submitted a ticket for a monitor that quit working. Let's see what happens next as the ticket works its way through the Avante ticketing system. Remember the dashboard area called My Current Activity, which was located on the Avante homepage? This is where you'll be able to check the status of your ticket as it moves along through the system. Once you have submitted your ticket, the status will change to In Progress. Here's the manager's view that shows open tickets and their status. The basic information that you provided is listed. In this example, your ticket number is I-27. The summary and category are also included. You'll see that your status shows awaiting response. Once the manager opens your ticket for assignment, this is the screen that is shown. The manager can change the urgency and response levels as appropriate. Next, they will select the degree of impact, which ranges from individual to university-wide. In this screenshot, you can see that the manager has updated the urgency and response levels. The degree of impact and the analyst has also been chosen. Once this is complete, you will receive an email telling you your ticket has been assigned. If necessary, the analyst may contact you. The process of solving the ticket has begun. Now your dashboard will reflect the updated information and your status will say In Progress. Let's fast forward a bit to when your ticket has been resolved. Your dashboard will be updated, the status will say resolved, and you will receive an email confirmation. On behalf of the ITS department, we'd like to remind you that with these changes, you'll receive the same outstanding service from the same caring people. The Avante ticketing system keeps you better informed.
All right, there you have it. Now you know all there is to know about the new ITS ticketing system. And thanks to you, now we know all about the plan for the next 10 years for deferred maintenance. I'm glad you defined that word because I had no idea what it meant. Rick Reeder, Vice President for Finance and Administration and Chief Financial Officer, thanks for coming by today. We hope that you found this informative, and we hope that maybe this helped you appreciate a little more. I think it did for me, because I've never seen this presentation before. It helped me appreciate how much effort goes into keeping our resources up to date, and it maybe gives me a better appreciation that, boy, we really have some nice facilities. I mean, I think you can know that just by looking at the campus, but there's a lot of effort that goes into making sure our facilities are top notch. And so thanks for the work that you and your staff do, and thanks for coming and spending time with us today. We're going to wrap up our segment. I'm going to let Brian do that. But before we do, I need you to know that I did a new drive around here in the last couple of weeks. Last time I was in Mesa, I grabbed the Arizona School of Health Sciences Dean, Randy Danielson, and I think just on the strength of how often you smiled while you were in the car with me, he thought it might be safe, and so he got in the car with me. And so coming up on our next Lunch and Learn episode, we're going to have a get-to-know with Randy Danielson. And man, he's got a long story to tell. The guy has been and done everything. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully you'll tune in for the next one. Brian, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, and in addition, in the next one, we're going to have Clinton Normore, and he's going to be with us talking about the upcoming climate survey. So that's been in the works for since last fall, I think. So that'll be a great session. Hope you'll join us. That one is coming up on May 9th, and that will wrap up our season.
Oh
so
my
that'll
gosh.
wrap up our season. We'll take a couple months off for the summer,
Golf.
and then we'll come back. Yeah, golf, little vacations here and there.
That's right.
And then we'll come back in the fall and start with season 6. Hard to believe that we've been doing this for 6 years.
No kidding.
So great. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on May 9th. If you have anyone who missed it, please make sure that they go to the YouTube site and they can catch the reruns there.
Yeah.
And we'll be in syndication shortly.
Any day now.
Great. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
All right.